Hello everyone. I'm about to set you all an assignment within your classes and what you will need to do is upload the assignment at whatever stage it's at. We're not interested in whether you're finished or not. We're interested in you getting some feedback from your peers and learning how to learn a little bit. And so I just want to make this video for you, and I'm calling it Approaches to Your Learning because I just want to encourage you to seek peer feedback and to seek ideas about what quality work looks like and how you can get yourself into that position. I keep telling you in class that learning is really important, and learning how to learn is really important, and so that's what this exercise is really all about. We want you to consider and start to consider that assessment is a way of learning as well. And so I want you not to be scared about handing in your work when it's not complete and not perfect. This is a way that we can learn. And so when we submit our work and we allow someone else to look at it and give us feedback, then we can really learn something important. It's really easy for you as a student to travel through school and to do school. But we need you to own your own learning a lot more and to activate yourself as a learner, because then you'll get this idea of that you can learn, and your self-efficacy, which is a complicated word maybe, but it just means I'll give it a go. And if you can increase your self-efficacy, then you're going to do much better at university. So there's some really good reasons why I want you to do this. There's a lot of research that's come out, academic research, that shows that this is important. Peers can effectively assess each other's work and really help each other to improve. And we really need you to be seeing that learning is just about effort. It's not about whether you're smart or you're talented or you've got a big brain or not. Our brains are all the same size. It's just a matter of who does more work. And one really important thing we want you to get is that to hold this idea that your concept of quality is similar to that held by the teacher, and or in terms of later assessment, the same sense of quality that might be held by examiners. I'm hoping, and the research tells us this, that you'll be more engaged when you get involved with your own learning, and you'll enjoy it more. And so the interesting thing is that often students are more tougher on each other than students are. And in fact, I've had students do this several years ago. I did this with a year 13 class or year 12 class in Australia, and I had a person in tears in my class because they didn't want to give feedback and hurt someone. And so if this is done with a genuine manner, this is a wonderful learning experience. Okay, so let's get into some nitty-gritty of this. I'm going to give you some questions in my Turn It In task that you'll receive. But a good basis for following this is to think about, there's three types of feedback. First, we want you to be looking at the task and think about, how well is it done? Is it correct or incorrect? Just looking at the mechanical aspects. Then look at process. What happened? Was there anything different? Any other different strategy that could have been used? In their learning. So thinking that will help you to think about what strategies are involved in the process of your learning and actually getting the tasks done. But what was the strategy behind the process? And then in the end, we really want you to get to this stage where you're starting to self-monitor. You're looking at your work before someone else in a peer sense looks at your work and says, hey, I know what I need to do to improve, and I can look back over it myself and I can figure this out. In this case, we're going to just keep it quite simple. I'm going to give you a couple of questions. In the future, we might do it more. We might, in some instances, we might give you marks for this. Or if we have an ATL mark in the school, then we might include this in your approaches to learning, because this is a legitimate way of learning. And so you can look to do that. And one of the most important things I want to highlight on this slide is that I want you to try and link your feedback to the criterion. So open up the criterion when you're giving, if it's about criterion A or B or whatever the criterion is, look up what that criterion is and then try to give your feedback based on that. Here's an excerpt from Hattie's book about feedback prompts, and it's broken up into this idea of task, process, and regulation, self-regulation again. So these are suggestions for what you can actually say. What did you do? What did he or she do well? Where did it go wrong? What's correct about this answer? What's not correct about that answer? Why is it wrong? What strategies did they use to get there? Okay, so your information literacy is going to improve heaps when you do this, and your recognition of the way you learn and how you learn and what strategies people might have used to actually write this information down. So instead of just writing down some information in your investigation, you might be thinking, well, okay, where did I get the information from? How did I assess that that information is correct? And how did I actually process that information into a relevant form that is relevant to my current assignment? And then once you do that, you're starting to monitor your own work, and you'll start to recognize what happens when I do this. And then you're going to be starting to really get to the stage where you're going to be able to perform and understand your learning. I'll just show you a little bit more about this task so you can come back to this video. So in the task section, you're really looking about whether they are looking at meeting that criteria. Is the answer correct or not? Could they elaborate more? What was going well? How did it go wrong? What is the correct answer, etc. Okay, then we move on to the process level. So you're looking for relationships in here. What strategies? Was there an error in how they came about this? And try to cue the person on to different strategies. If you'd got it right and they got it wrong, and your peer review sort of cycle, then point out a strategy that the person could use. And then lastly, for process, we might be looking at what is their understanding of the concepts behind this sort of activity, the guiding questions or the big questions that might survive behind this. And what are the relationships between parts? So once you start looking for relationships between different sections of the assignment, then you're really starting to get a deeper understanding of what's happening. And when you understand what's happening, you'll really come up to this sort of self-regulation level, where you'll probably get this self-efficacy that I was talking about earlier. You'll have a greater willingness to invest time and to seek feedback about things. You'll understand the place of self-assessment within your learning. You'll have a greater degree of confidence in your correctness, and you won't come to the teacher and say, "Hey, can you check this? What's happening? Is this correct?" You'll actually have more confidence in that, and there'll be less questioning of the teacher at the end, saying, I want to get a better mark. You won't be focused on the marks as much as you'll be focused on your learning and your proficiency in learning. Getting to this self-regulation stage should be everybody's aim, and we should be, starting to be able to say, what does this information have in common with other subjects? Have I changed my ideas, or what did I learn from this? And you should be able to think a little bit about not only the assignment, but what the assignment means and what you've learnt during that assignment, because anybody can just hand in work that the teacher asks you to hand in. It's a matter of learning why have we been doing that assignment, and what did we learn by doing that assignment. That's important. And what can I now teach other people through peer feedback, and therefore learn this more deeply myself. So for this assignment, you'll see I've set it up in Turnitin for you, and you'll see that the first assignment is a paper assignment, which is due, and then you'll notice that the peer mark one will come an hour later. So after you hand it in, then an hour later, it will be automatically and randomly sent to another member of the classroom, and they will give you the peer feedback. So it's really important that you submit on time, whether you're finished or not, because this is about learning. It's not about marking. And then when you do enter in and it's randomly assigned back to you, there'll be some questions that you're asked. I've just put down 2 to start with. Which part of the submission can you identify as being complete and done well? So that's sort of like a task-oriented sort of question. And then which part of the submission do you feel you could improve, or if there was anything missing. And please identify and list what needs to be done so that you can help the people. So at this stage, we're sort of just focusing on these are almost both at the task level at the start of a peer feedback sort of model, and we'll practice on that at this stage. What I will see, this is what I will see when you have done your peer reviews. I will see in here, you won't grade each other, but there'll be some responses that you'll write down, and I can see that you've all participated in this, and it'll be very interesting to read your comments. So just to conclude, your task in simple terms, why don't you look over this video, the 3 forms of feedback and prompts. We're going to identify in your peers' work some examples of the criterion and how it could be improved, or what was good and what was missing. And then you're going to answer the prompts, make your comments in the prompts, trying to help them and receive help as well. So it's a bit like sort of give one, get one type of attitude. This is not a competition. We're all here to learn. We're not competing against each other for marks. There's no bell curve. And then the last thing I'd like you to do is to include somewhere in your investigation a little bit of a reflection on what you learnt from getting peer feedback, and is it possible that you could use that in any way in terms of user-centered design and things like that. Alright, so I hope this video is not too long for you, and I hope that we can have a good go at doing this. Thanks.